Today on Big Brother Rewind, Kara is the second house guest to be evicted. Did she play too little, too late? And Frank wins the HOH competition, putting Willie on notice and eventually losing his cool. How will his removal from the game affect nominations? All this and more on this week's Big Brother Rewind.
Welcome, everybody, to another Big Brother Rewind on the GFQ Network. I'm Andrew Zarian, and of course, as I am each and every week, I'm joined by Jessica. How you doing, Jess?
Great. How are you?
Getting your inner JoJo out today, I see.
I am.
Got the makeup, got the big hair.
As always. Is there any difference between JoJo and the little, like the inner JoJo?
You're a little bit more orange than she is. She's a little darker.
Yeah. Well, what are you going to do?
And of course, I'm joined by Sunkast, also known as John, going by his real name on this show. He's John today.
Oh.
I know, it's still weird that you even do that.
The Sunkast thing?
Yeah, I get confused when people call me by my real name now.
I feel that way too. I get very confused when people call you by your real name.
I wish I could have a name that I would be confused if someone called me Jess.
Yeah, let's come up with a name for you. You don't want to know the names you will come up.
Yeah, just come up with a name for me and start calling me that.
It's very obscene, the names they call you. Very obscene names. Another crazy week on Big Brother. This show is a recap show of everything that happened in Big Brother. We record live every Monday at 6 p.m. East on the GFQ Network. You could also catch it on iTunes, on the Zune, pretty much anywhere that podcasts are available, and of course on our website, gfqnetwork.com. John does all the editing, so if there's any problems with the feed, send him the complaint email, sunkast@gfqnetwork.com. So where do I begin with this week, guys? Where do I start?
From the beginning, of course.
I know,
Unless
but there
you
was
like
so
to go
much.
right into the juicy bits.
I always start with the juicy bits.
But
But whatever, go with the beginning.
We kind of have
Yeah.
to actually tell a story here, so.
okay, so where should I start this with?
Well, where did we end last week?
Well, we ended it at the place that we did. No, okay. So I'll start it off because I don't want to. You know what it is? I don't want to give away the spoilers because I get a lot of emails saying, "Hey, listen, you gave away a couple spoilers without you saying that it's spoiler time."
Oh.
So what we do whenever there's a spoiler, we announce that there's a spoiler. So we're gonna hold off for a lot of them. I guess we'll start off with the HOH. We did the HOH.
Eviction?
Yeah, the eviction. Thank you. We'll start off with the eviction. We had Kara on the block. And of course, she went home. I think most people
Kara
saw
and
that.
Frank. It was a close vote because it came down to like 5-4 or something like that, where it was just one vote that sent Kara home, basically.
Yeah, it was Kara and Frank. And last week, it looked like when we did the show last Monday, it really looked like Frank was going to go. It was it for Frank.
Well, okay, so Willie had done that really big mistake in going to Frank and saying, let's have a deal. Let's work together. He approached him and he said, I think we should work together. I want to make you safe this week. Promise me that you'll be safe next week and whatever. He then turns around and puts him up on the block and then goes to him and says, I'm still going to keep you in. I'm still going to keep you in. I'm still going to keep you in. And then comes up with this like big group plan to make people know that there's really no alliances going on so that he's the tiebreaker vote, that they're going to split the votes equally between Kara and Frank, and then Willie will save Frank in the end.
And a stupid
It was
thing.
stupid because everyone...
It was convoluted.
It was very,
It was... I think what he's been known for doing is playing too much too fast. And it all turns on him because everybody goes and running back to Frank, telling Frank what he did. Lots of other things happen that cause Frank to be angry with Willie and not want to work with him. And then Willie turns around and says, I was going to save you, but now I'm not going to save you. And I'm encouraging everybody here to vote Frank out and keep Kara, which of course no one did. and they ended up keeping.
First of all,
Frank.
I want to talk about Willie a little bit before we get to what happened this week with Willie. Willie seemed off the bat. There's always that one player that stands out in every game.
Yeah.
And there's always that one player that plays way too fast. And he played way too fast. And it seems to be the curse of the guy who gets the first HOH. Last year, Hayden was the exception to the rule.
No. That was the previous year.
That was the previous. I'm sorry. Yeah, previous year, Hayden was the exception to the rule. But
That was third. That was 12, I think.
yeah. But whenever somebody is the first HOH, they cannot do any power moves. It's a wasted HOH. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the house. Make your alliances. Don't make any power moves. Eliminate 2 useless people from the house.
Exactly.
Don't try to go after the main.
Which he didn't at all.
Which he didn't. No. He actually targeted every single major player in that game. He made enemies with every main player in that game. You're talking about Dan, Boogie. I mean, yeah, they're the coaches, but he made enemies with them. He even turned his back on his own team.
He turned his back on Brittany.
I mean, he played an awful game, and I don't know if it had to do. I was reading one of the blogs, and one of the I think it was on Online Big Brother. By the way, we get all our information from OnlineBigBrother.com. They're a big contributor to the show. So I was on there. I think I was reading one of their comments, and somebody said maybe he was trying to play like his brother, even though he said he's not his brother, but his brother won Survivor.
Right.
So was it that he was trying to make these major moves and be this memorable guy?
Maybe.
Or maybe he's just an idiot. The guy just
I would go for the latter. He's just an idiot.
he's just an idiot. Yeah. I mean, it was ridiculous the way he played.
What happened is that he came in there with a set mind of how each week is going to go, and it didn't do anything as far as what he wanted it to do. He was like, all right, well, I'm going to do A, B, C, and D every single week, and everybody's going to follow me along because I'm the best thing that's ever been in the Big Brother house.
Yeah.
Right.
So Kara and Frank are on the block. Frank gets the votes to stay. Kara goes home. She wasn't a major player. Her biggest mistake was she did not play the game at all. She didn't really politic. She didn't try to get the votes. She
just sat and cried.
She just
But
sat
was
and
that
cried.
Dan's fault?
Yeah. You know what?
Dan told her, don't do anything.
First of all, Dan is awful. And I'll tell you why. Dan picked the worst team. He picked all girls.
Pretty girls.
They were all weak. He has no major players. He has no major players that could win a competition.
Okay, this is true, but he didn't pick Jody. Jody was given to him because she was the last person. But he did. He went and he picked the 2 prettiest girls.
But he had 2 votes back to back. He could have picked.
He could have. Oh, absolutely. He could have gotten Frank on his team. He could have gotten.
Well, no, he was the last. So Frank was already picked. You could have picked Shane.
He could have gotten Joe.
You could have gotten Shane. You could have gotten Joe.
Well, wasn't Shane already chosen?
No. Shane was the second round.
Oh.
I mean, the point is he had moves and he didn't make good moves.
He made mistakes.
And I think Dan's whole mindset was, let me align with Boogie, and that'll keep me safe. I think Dan is playing for himself rather than playing for the team.
Dan's smart because we also learned this week that not learned officially, but we have a suspicion, I'd say, that they're going to end up being in the game, right? We mentioned this before. Yeah. That there's a possibility that Brittany, Dan, Mike are going to end up being in this game and playing for themselves. And Janelle playing for themselves. And I think that Dan is a very smart player. And whether or not it really makes any difference at all how his team members go. Because if you win $500,000. If his team wins, he gets $100,000.
So your idea is that he's banking on the concept that the coaches are going to be playing the game. So he's like, you know what? Let them eliminate whoever the hell they want. I don't care. I want the 500,000, not the 100,000.
I think he's playing Dan's. I think Dan's playing Dan's.
Do you remember what was that move last season? John, you might remember it. Do you remember the guy who, when Brendan came back and he threw the competition because he thought if he leaves, he's going to get some superpower? Lawan.
Yes.
What was that? It was such a dumb move.
He thought he was going to get some like golden POV thing.
If he went home, like he thought he would get eliminated
and then come back in,
then come back in as like the superpower of coup d'etat veto.
Right. The
he
golden
offers
power of
himself
life.
up as a backdoor, basically.
Yeah, the golden power of life. Yeah, he offered himself as a backdoor to leave the house. He's like,
Right.
no, guys, it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. No. Oh, I'm not the target. It's fine. Oh, you're gonna take me to Final Four? No. Just send me home. I know what's happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe he has a little bit of that, but I believe in Dan. I like Dan. I think that Dan's a strong player. I think that Dan's always been a strong player, and he's very strategic in his moves. I mean, we watched Dan win basically the most pivotal HOV head of household competition.
POV.
No,
HOH.
HOH, not HOV.
Like the lane? You're
Like
talking
the
about
lane, where you have to be with more than one person. Between the hours of 5 and 10. Okay, so Dan, we watched him win that head of a household competition or a POV competition. He won mainly because he brought that hooded jacket. Remember that? And that was such a very well thought out plan. And later on in interviews, he said, no, I thought it out completely. And whenever there was a competition, I would always bring out a jacket just in case it was one of those times. So I feel like he really looks at the whole picture. He has the ability to stand back. So it's possible that Dan is playing actually the smartest game here. But this year, I do not believe that Mike or Dan or any of their people are going to win. I really think that Brittany and Janelle are going to have it. I think that Brittany and Janelle, I think that they need them to win. I think that Big Brother already has Mike's won already. Dan's won already.
Yeah.
Brittany and Janelle have both been screwed over by the men in the competition.
But you know what's funny? Janelle is going after Brittany now, which, again, we'll get to.
But I really, truly believe that Brittany and Janelle and their teams are going to make it in the end. I do.
You think so?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So now Kara goes home.
HOH.
HOH competition.
HOH.
Yeah, it's time for the HOH competition. Frank wins HOH. It was a Q&A based on the robber that was in the house.
Yeah.
They had these special alerts where they showed this robber coming in and doing weird stuff in the house. Frank wins. It was Frank and Will as the final two. There was one question that everybody got eliminated on. It was like the entire house got that wrong.
That was strange.
It was strange, and there were the only two left. Frank
Ian
wins.
Got it wrong too, by the way, which I thought was a little bizarre. I don't know if maybe he's trying to be strategic and not get everything right to show that he's not a threat, that he doesn't want to be a threat yet.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
that's an
he
option.
actually threw that question because we
What-
all know that he knows everything about Big Brother.
Right. It's not just that he knows everything about Big Brother. It seems as though he has kind of like a photographic memory. He has the ability to remember lots of details. So it is strange that Ian messed up on that question. But was that the question with the shaving of the leg?
I think so. Yeah.
The reason why, and when we were playing at home and you got it wrong.
Because the way he was sitting,
No,
he had his leg crossed over.
No, it's not because he had his leg crossed over. It's because you were watching it that way. And if you actually had to pretend you were him and put your leg up on the thing to figure out that it was his right leg and not his left leg. Everybody said left, I think, because when you were watching it on the screen, it was just like, oh, it's his left leg, it's my left leg, it's his left leg. I think that that's what people messed up. And I remember when I answered that question, I had to pretend like I was in the tub and I put up my leg and I'm like, oh, it has to be the right. But everybody got that wrong, and I think you're right. I absolutely think you're right. I think Ian threw it.
That's actually a good observation, John. Again, you're listening to Big Brother Rewind. For people just tuning in, this is our Big Brother recap show. We run down everything that happened in the Big Brother house, the hit reality show on CBS. Of course, you could, if you miss any portion of the show, you could go to our website, gfknetwork.com, and catch the podcast. Also, subscribe to us. It's a big help when you do. So, Frank wins HOH. Which is
Willie's big nightmare.
Willie's big nightmare. And Willie really did not handle this, and this was the beginning of the. Actually, let me go before this. The beginning of the end with Willie was when
he nominated Frank.
No, after that.
It's when Brittany tells him, "Please don't say anything to anybody else. You promise, Willie? You promise you're not going to say anything to anybody else? Okay. Now that you promised, I'm going to tell you that I think that all of us are going
into the game because there's keys next to our names. Since we're the first ones up top, they could have blocked it out, but they put keys next to them.
Brittany screwed herself over royally.
And this is like the third time she's done this because she has a big mouth.
She keeps trusting the wrong people. She believed in Willie so much. She picked him immediately. She believed that he was going to be an amazing player and make it to the end. She's putting all of her like proverbial eggs in his basket, and he went and threw them at her. He went against everything that she told him don't do. Is exactly what he went and did.
He called this crazy house meeting that
and Boogie goes, if that was one of my guys, I would have nipped that in the butt.
I mean to the point that like people are there and you know, he's talking about the game, and in his weird warped mind he's trying to protect Frank from getting eliminated. That was his whole thing. He was like, well, I'm going to call this meeting and I'm going to talk about Frank and I'm going to talk about how we need to stick together and we'll send home Kara, but we'll keep Frank. That was his concept behind there. That was his weird
but that doesn't make
thing.
Any sense.
It made no sense, but that's how we described
Although,
it. It did more damage.
It did more. Wanted to play his own game. He didn't want Brittany telling him what to do. He saw Brittany as somebody that was inferior to himself.
True. And he also, I don't know, he killed himself in so many different ways. I think my favorite moment, though, from this past week is when Willie then decides, he's like holier than thou, and he decides that, you know what, Frank, screw you. We're going to vote you out, like as if he has the power to do that. We're going to vote you out. We're going to keep Kara. And then he says to Frank, they're outside, and he says to Frank something like, I don't care what you do. I'm going to eat my Fruit Loops. Outside. What the? It was like the most ridiculous thing I had ever heard in my life. I had no idea. Where did that even come from? It wasn't like it was part of the conversation. It was like, you know what, Frank? I'm going to eat my Fruit Loops in front of you and I'm not going to care. It made no sense, and it actually made me giggle out loud.
He was like, yeah, eat your Fruit Loops.
Yeah, eat your Fruit Loops.
What the hell are you talking about? No, he really lost his mind. Everybody hated him at this point. Now, Frank wins HOH. Frank has the power, obviously. Willie's going to go home. I mean, that's the whole thing. The whole house hates him at this point. Rather than trying to do some sort of damage control, because that's what I would do. If I was the one that was hated, I would do some sort of damage control where
you can see him wandering around the house, sitting around and just trying to think of a way out.
And he couldn't. He couldn't come up with a way out. The way out would have been shut your mouth, try to fix this to some extent,
fix it,
get a couple votes, and hopefully you'll win POV. Mm-hmm. And the odds are you probably will win POV.
Yeah, because Frank said, well,
I mean,
as long as Shane, because Shane seems to be like
the POV king.
The POV king.
Okay, but you know what? He could have still won. I mean, anything is possible. He's a good player. He's athletic. He's not weak.
No, he should have stuck it out.
I mean, he had a chance with that coin tossing thing. He could have won that. You know, he did all right.
He should have stuck it out.
So he had a chance. No, he totally blows it. He blows it. Was this after the coaches' competition or before?
This was,
It was
after.
It was before. He blows it after. Yeah, the coaches' competition happened. So
yeah, he does the whole blow up that Willie had was after the coaches' comp.
Okay,
the coaches play that weird 90s thing that was lost on half of the people there, and they didn't really understand it. It was weird because what you had to do was move across this balance beam sideways and carry your cash over. It was called fat stacks or something like that.
It was like MC Hammer pants.
Yeah, but they were constructed in a way where they could only move side to side.
Right. Well, there was like stiffness in the pants. all the way up to the knees. So it made it made it up. It made it impossible for you to walk normal.
Stiffness all the way up to the knees. Wow, that's a big boy.
It made it impossible for them to walk forward. He had to like shimmy side to side.
You have to shimmy side to side.
Right.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
And Brittany was doing pretty good. I mean, she was ahead of everybody else.
She was doing great, and she was so far ahead. I think she was like 8 stacks ahead of everybody else at one point.
Yeah.
And you know, she was a little too fast.
Yep. Got a little sloppy.
You know what you do when you're 8 stacks ahead? You say, "I'm just gonna slow down."
Yeah.
And you take your time, and you do it. You're so far ahead where you're going to win.
She could have won that.
Oh, my God. 100%. But you know what happened? She got sloppy. She got excited. She knew she was going to win, possibly. And she blew it. She dropped the stacks of money to the floor, and she was eliminated.
Yep, okay. So that left Boogie, Dan, and Janelle.
Exactly.
This was like the competition of just the worst group of mistakes
You
ever.
know, so many mistakes where you start wondering.
Yeah, it was like a pile full of errors, and you didn't understand quite, and especially since not.
First of all, by the way, Dan, not playing. He's like, I'm throwing this one too. Hell with it. I don't need a target on me.
Dan is the king of throwing competitions. You always hear Dan saying, I'm going to throw this one, I'm going to throw this one, I'm going to throw this one. Dan is
Right, so
always
that
throwing.
basically left Mike and Janelle.
Right.
Yeah, Boogie and Janelle. Boogie wins. He gets the last stack. He has to go hit the buzzer. What does he do? He jumps off of the balance beam and says some stupid line like, oh, cash that check or something. And then he hits the buzzer and goes, eh.
Yeah.
Hits the buzzer again. He goes, eh. And he's looking around, and Frank goes, you eliminated yourself.
Frank's like, whoa, 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 is actually what he does. And then he says, dude, I don't think you won. Dude, no. And Boogie has no idea. He doesn't understand why he didn't win.
Right, and Dan wasn't going to
And
win, so that really left Janelle
Janelle.
by
it
herself.
left Janelle.
And Janelle won.
It left Janelle. And then the meltdown.
Well, Janelle put Willie, Ian, and JoJo and Shane on slop.
Yeah, and it actually makes JoJo
but here was the other
hate
thing.
Janelle.
He was the other thing. The point was the winner of this coaches competition could, decide who gets slop, who are the have-nots, and they could potentially trade one of their players for another player.
Or keep one of their own players safe.
Right, they were all worried about
you
whether
couldn't
or
keep
not, if Brittany won, she was going to trade Willie to somebody else's team, and nobody wanted that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
This is when the meltdown starts to happen. Willie has a massive breakdown after speaking to Brittany in one of the rooms. Brittany's
The parlor,
like,
I
you
think it
screwed
was.
yourself. I want nothing to do with you. He goes to talk to JoJo. Brittany
JoJo wants nothing to do with them
Brittany
either.
pulls JoJo. JoJo's like, listen, I want nothing to do with you. They're all in the kitchen. Now it's JoJo, Brittany. Actually, no. First she runs upstairs, so screaming.
No. JoJo.
Like, don't take it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brittany is in the little room on the side room with Willie, and Willie's like, I'm sorry, you just have to get over it. And Brittany's like, it happened 24 hours ago. This isn't something that happened a week ago. This just happened last night. So I'm not over it yet. I'm not going to be over it
He's screaming
yet.
about playing his own game. He doesn't want to play Brittany's game.
Exactly. So he then goes to JoJo. JoJo is like running around trying to purposely ignore Willie. He doesn't want, she doesn't want to be near him. And then he's sitting there eating pork rinds, and then it all falls apart.
It all falls apart because Joe comes in, walks into the room.
No. Brittany tells Willie, don't do anything else. Just stay quiet.
Just stay quiet. Just shut your mouth.
And Willie says, you can't tell me what to do. And Brittany's like, what are you going to do? You're going to go up there, like, you just screwed everybody else over. Just shut up. Like, what are you going to do? Go up there and scream at everybody else? And Willie says, yes, I am. And he goes upstairs and he
screams at them and
screams at
says, send me
them.
home. I'm going to go home. Send me home. Don't take it out on them.
Don't take it
like
out
he's
on
trying to
them.
be this big savior where he's, giving himself up.
Yeah.
And saying, you're
And they
sending
can
me
hear
home.
him yelling in the HOH room. They tried to lock the door so that he can't come in.
Now, here's the other concept there. That's an evil Dick move. That's what Dick did. I don't know if you remember that. He was like, send me home. And they didn't send him home.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if he was trying to be like Dick. And he's like, well, it works. So maybe they'll keep me because
Willie's not
they
that
hate
smart.
me. I mean, I don't know. I'm just throwing everything out there. Or the other concept was, and we'll get to my other theory on this. So he goes upstairs, yells at him, comes downstairs, and he starts saying how everybody in the house is a bunch of pussies. And nobody has the balls to do anything, and he's the only one. And
Right.
Joe's walking by. And Joe says something like, you're the pussy.
You're the only pussy here.
Yeah.
Right. And Joe has been like the silent player. Like, he might as well be a pillow on the couch. We haven't
Right.
seen...
When all this went down, I was reading the Twitter feeds, and I'm like, I don't understand why Willie would go after Joe.
Right.
Because it doesn't make any sense. Joe has been very much out of this and trying to stay out of it whatsoever with Willie. So
Out of this, he's been out of the whole competition.
Yeah.
He's played nothing. Like, Willie played way too hard, way too fast. Kara played way too nothing.
Way too nothing. But I mean, she
And
was to
Joe's-
give up for the week. The first week is always, you don't know what they're going to be doing. I mean, she could have been a good player. Who knows? But for that first week, she did nothing. So he loses his mind, follows Joe. Joe's in the bathroom.
He was like, what did you say? What did you say?
And he got into his face, and he starts pushing him around. and he headbutts him in the nose.
This is in the bathroom.
In the bathroom. Now, the best part of this is not the fight, is Ian in his towel, and he's screaming, "No! Stop it! No!" And then he just looks and he just runs out.
Yeah, we run.
It's almost like he thought about breaking up the fight and then realized that he's 110 pounds soaking wet, and he just ran.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can hear the producers over the house telling them to stop it.
Yeah,
and,
don't hit him.
separate.
Don't hit him. Yeah, and
They're
they
telling
tell
him, Joe, don't follow Willie. Willie, go to diary room.
Right.
And then Janelle is out there. Janelle starts yelling, and he starts throwing pork rinds at Janelle.
And calling her a bitch.
Yeah, and that was it.
And
So
Brittany's
Janelle's
crying.
like, fuck you.
Yeah, everybody's crying now.
Everybody's hysterical crying. There's a bunch of people in like that refrigerator room. What's
Yeah,
that? I don't know,
yeah.
like the
Storage room?
pantry.
Yeah, the pantry.
And they're all like, we should go out. No, we shouldn't. Yes, we should. No, we shouldn't. Not until they say it's safe. Like, say it's safe. Like, Willie, okay. He doesn't have a weapon. Like,
There's
he
10
didn't
of
even
you.
punch anybody. He just headbutted someone. Like, yes, Willie was evil, whatever. He needed to go. But
I think
I
he
just
just-
thought it was really funny. Like,
Listen.
not until Big Brother says it's safe.
So he goes to the diary room. They take him out. He's out of the game. Done.
Right.
Now the
Yeah,
theory
they were
here.
like, we won't tolerate any violence.
So now the theory here is that maybe in his warped mind he was like, "I'll get sent home, and it'll save someone from the team." That's what some people are saying. I don't think so.
No.
I don't think that's what's going to happen. But now
I don't think he has the clarity to see that far ahead.
No. But interesting. Last week we were doing the math on how many weeks there are Big Brother and how many weeks they're short. So they're gonna have one double eviction. They're gonna have they sent somebody home the first week, right?
They
And
sent
now
Jody
Willie's
home.
gone. So they're 4 weeks behind or 3 weeks behind now, technically.
Yeah, basically, these first 2 weeks, they sent 2 people home each. Jody and Kara the first week. Now Willie and somebody else this week.
So they're
Right.
2 weeks behind.
Right.
Plus a double eviction if they still do a double eviction. That would be 3 weeks.
Which means they automatically have to
Add them to the game.
make them go into
Or
the
bring
game.
somebody back.
I think that they'll probably do both.
Or bring someone back. Oh yeah,
I
that's what
think-
they did last year.
I think they're gonna do all of the, Brittany, Mike, Janelle, and Dan are gonna end up playing for themselves, and I think that they're gonna have a competition to come back into the house. I just think that Willie won't be part of it.
So is it better now because Dan's team is down to 1, right? So let's say Danielle, and I'm not giving away a spoiler yet. I'm not doing it. I'm just throwing it out there. Let's say Danielle goes home. Does Dan enter the game by himself? And then each coach, like I would imagine, it would be an incentive for you to go as far as you can with your team. So when your team is
Right.
at the end, you enter the game. Like when your last player leaves, you enter the game. But then that means
you
that
sort of have yourself as a buffer. You put your team there as a buffer between you
and
the house, so that because you can't vote out the coaches, so that buys you basically an extra 3 weeks there with your team.
yeah.
Right.
If you know what I'm saying. So basically, you let your team get picked off first, or you make them go as long as possible, so that when they're out, you're farther ahead than all of them, because nobody's had the chance to actually vote the coaches out.
Yeah. Or the other thing would happen is that what if you hate the coach? Everybody hates the coach. They're going to start picking off at the players in the house to get rid of the coach. So it's an interesting concept. We haven't heard anything from Big Brother, but the numbers are really falling really quickly. And after Willie's breakdown, now there's another guy that's out. I would have imagined they would have said, nobody's going home this week if they didn't have a plan. They would have said, okay, you know what? No elimination this week. It's a dead HOH.
I don't think that's what they're gonna do. I think,
But they're not. No, I'm saying they're not. That's probably not. Because,
That's not fair.
Yeah.
no, that's not what they're gonna do. They're gonna bring back everybody, and they're gonna have a competition to bring back the voted out house guests.
I mean, Big Brother, they love their twists.
Yeah, and by the way, we have not seen any twists so far except for the coach's comps.
well, the coaches comp, and that the coaches can now switch.
You know what they should do
Players.
now with Pandora's Box? Rather than bringing Jesse back, it should just be Willie, and he just yells at you. That's what it should be. The Pandora's Box should be Willie in a box just screaming at
It'd be
you.
Willie, and what was that other guy that got kicked out? Do you remember, like a few years back? That was the guy. Well, didn't he take like someone's toothbrush and like brush the toilet or something? And he got kicked out.
No, the toothbrush incident is our friend Kenny Santucci. Oh, not that toothbrush incident. Okay.
No. There was another person that got kicked out because I think that he got into a fight with someone and he took their toothbrush and like cleaned the toilet with it and then put it back and didn't tell her. There was something like that and he got kicked out.
I vaguely remember that, but I can't remember any.
I can't remember what
specifics as far
season
as
it
who.
was or whatever, but it could be just everybody that's been kicked out of the show.
Yeah. I don't know.
Including that guy that was, remember last year there was like the publicity photos of all the people and then the person
the
never
one guy
came,
that never came in, yeah.
Including him. It should be like everybody that like never made it, like got kicked out without being evicted
Yeah.
out and never made it in the house.
What they could do though is
What?
that if you remember at the beginning of the season when we start getting our first looks at the cast, there was one or two players that we initially saw but were never actually there officially when they announced it. Because
They
we
were
saw the
alternates.
leaks and we saw the promo on July 4th, but then one or two of the people that we saw in the promo didn't actually get announced on July 12th.
Are you talking
officially.
about? Are you talking about which, like the players in the house in the promo, or are you talking about like the old players?
No, I'm talking about the new house guests
Oh,
that
really?
were in the promo.
I don't remember.
I
There were
think
people.
somebody named Mike, maybe. I think it was Mike
There
that was in the promo on July 4th that you saw on TV. But then when they announced it officially on July 12th, who the new cast was, he was not there.
Right. There's always alternates. They always have a female and a male alternate that unless something happens like last minute, they'll pull someone out and put them in.
Mhm.
Something happens. But I don't think they'll bring in alternates. Usually you don't see them ever or you see them later on other CBS shows.
Listen, I have a big theory on all this. I really think Big Brother controls the outcome of the game. I think there are certain players that are put into situations to get eliminated early. There are certain people that are put in place to kind of stir things up. And I would hate to see it, but the more you watch it, the more evident it becomes. And after this week, I mean, look at all the bizarre things that happened. The coaches comp and two of the players eliminated themselves, and I mean, it was just a lot of stuff is happening. Jody gets sent home first. I mean, the first day, a lot of weird stuff. But this is a question now that I have: is it better to be a weak player or a strong player?
Well,
And I'm not
I think
talking
that'd
weak.
be a
I'm
mix
not.
of
I'm not
both,
talking
though,
weak
don't you?
like Willie being self-destructive and killing his game. I'm talking about.
like Danielle week,
I'm talking about.
Kara week.
Danielle week. I'm talking about Kara week. I'm talking about Ian week.
Well, let me give a good example of this. I think a good example of this might be like Ian. Because Ian right now necessarily isn't strong, but he has a brain for this sort of stuff. He can figure out the strategies involved in all this and start to see stuff ahead.
Right.
I guess.
So in a way,
I mean,
he's physically weak, but he's mentally strong.
mentally strong, yes, but I'm like a weak social game in terms of you're not really politicking. I mean, what constitutes a strong player, right? You would think of a strong player. You think of
Strong social game.
Jeff. You think of Evil Dick. You think of Enzo. Strong game.
Mhm.
I mean, awful at competitions, but a strong game. Hayden.
Personality.
Hayden had a strong game. I mean, these are people that had strong game in recent years.
Mhm.
Is it better to be that, or is it better to be an Ian?
No, it's better to be strong because if Ian doesn't, well, see, I don't think Ian's weak. I think Ian's smart. I think Ian
But this
has
is a theory.
studied this game. No, I think that Ian has studied this game and he's going to show us
Okay,
later on.
Adam from last season.
And Ian's going to stick around for a really long time.
Yeah, he will, unless he loses his shit
No,
too.
he's not. He's not. He's weird and he's quirky. So you thought he was going to self-destruct earlier,
Mhm.
but I really feel like I feel very strongly that he's going to stick around till close to the end. He knows a lot. He's awkward and weird, but not necessarily in a bad way. We saw them, Ian and Ashley this week have that date.
Yeah.
So he is not so weird where
Well,
people
Ashley's
don't want to.
bizarre.
Well, Ashley's bizarre, but he's not so weird that people don't like him. You know, Brittany.
It's really interesting to see the transition of Ian being kind of not liked in the first week, and now he's kind of like socially acceptable. I mean, they kind of understand he's just young and kind of naive and doesn't necessarily have the same life experiences as everybody else.
Right.
He's more of a sheltered person.
Right. Well, we also, I think that Ian's gonna make it far, and I think that,
He's kind of like everybody's little brother.
exactly, yeah, Exactly. He's not threatening. He's quirky, so he's interesting to have around.
Right.
And so far, he's not a threat. We know he's not a physical threat. So far, he hasn't shown us that he's any sort of threat mentally, really, because he hasn't done anything. But I like him. I think he's an interesting character. And I liked how Ian and Ashley had that dinner, that like slop date that they went on. And Ashley asks him the difference between organic and Ashley asks
organic
Ashley asks him, "What's your favorite
Subject.
your favorite subject, your favorite?" And instead of just saying science or chemistry, he says inorganic chemistry. And then she asks, "Well, what's the difference between organic and inorganic? Because when I think about it as fruit at the market."
Yeah. Why is organic so much better?
I love that.
And Ian did not respond like, what the hell is wrong with you? It's something that he actually sat there and explained.
He launched into a big convoluted explanation that she couldn't even understand.
She had no clue what was happening. So talking about Ashley, last week we had come up with this theory where Ashley and Will are almost identical. And there are many times that I mistaken the two when they're like, if it's like a quick glance, I'm like, is that Ashley? No, it's Will. So we said, well, somebody Photoshop them together as one person, and now we have it.
This is Wishley,
the newest competitor, and it is the same person. I've decided that it's an identical person.
Tell me that's not the identical person.
I mean, it fits so perfectly in there.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
Really? No, really.
When he sent this to me last week, and Sunkast, John did this, by the way, and I got the image. I'm like, why is he sending me a picture of Will? What's the big deal? And he sent it again. I'm like, dude, why are you constantly sending me pictures of Will? He's like, just look at the face. And I go, oh my God, it's the same person. So that was a Photoshop job from last week's discussion. So why don't we go on to spoilers? We're warning you guys, this is a spoiler. So if you don't want to listen to this, wait till Thursday or wait till whenever, Tuesday, Wednesday, to listen to this. Nominations for the week.
Because we normally would see them on Sunday, I believe, but we haven't seen them because of Willie's big fight.
So nominations for the week, JoJo and Shane are now the nominations because Willie left. So it was probably going to be Shane and Willie.
Right.
That was going to be the nominations. The hope was, well, one of them will, hopefully none of them will veto. And if one does, they'll take themselves off and we get rid of another good player. Well, turns out JoJo and Shane are the nominations.
Right, because you can't put Willie up.
Because you can't put Willie up because he's gone. POV comp, Shane wins.
Shane is like kicking
Shane is great
butt.
Shane is really good. I actually like Shane, but I don't know why there's such a big target on him. Like, he's a strong player, but he's not liked by the other teams.
Well, we haven't seen any personality from Shane. Shane is a good player. He is a strong competitor, but you don't see any fun side of Shane. But when you look at him, you see that CBS was trying to create another like Jeff.
Yeah.
He's that all-American. Like, you can see him with like the jeans,
but
and
he doesn't have the personality whatsoever.
He doesn't.
He's more introverted.
Yeah,
absolutely. You want to see him be that guy that America falls in love with, and yet we've seen nothing of his personality that makes you at all interested in him, other than he can compete.
I don't understand why Frank nominated JoJo. I really don't.
I'll tell you why, because they were sitting down and Boogie was in the room and they were all talking about how JoJo needs to go because she's guilty by association. That's what they were saying when they were picking him. She's guilty by association. She backed Willie up, and now she's gone. But here's the other twist to this. So Shane wins a competition. Who do you put up? Who does Frank put up? We don't know who's until this morning. Actually, we had written the notes and we didn't know. But who would you put up if you were Frank at this point? Who's in the house that you could potentially put up? So let's pull up the image.
I know who I'd put up.
Okay, so You have Brittany. You can't put up Brittany. So Shane is off. You can't put up Boogie. So you have Jen. You have Ian. You have Will. You have Joe. And you have Ashley. None of those are a threat at this point. I mean, Joe, but I guess Joe's liked enough. Ian is liked. Jen has not really done much. And maybe that's the best thing not to do.
A waste.
But
Jen
you know
is a
what?
total waste.
Jen is this year's Adam.
Jen is this year's Adam. But you know what? She's smart because she's under the radar. Nobody knows what she does. You don't hear about her. You don't even see her on camera. And she's staying out of the radar. So you're forgetting about him. Joe, kind of, yeah. I mean, Joe's kind of being there too. Ashley as well. Will has a great social game, so he's going to make it pretty far. So the only person really is Danielle. And the incentive for getting rid of Danielle is you get rid of Dan.
Team.
And Dan is out.
Right.
So if I was a coach, I would push for her.
But you have to remember Mike and Dan are working together. So
Well, I
Mike
don't know.
has Frank's ear. So Boogie's telling Frank what to do. Frank can't put up his own team. So he's not going to nominate Jen and he's not going to nominate Ian. Mike is telling him, don't do Danielle because that's, Dan's person. And it seems as though Janelle's kind of switching sides. And Janelle and Brittany used to really work together. They were going to be like the team to beat. It was going to be girls against boys.
Girls against boys.
And Janelle seems to be playing both sides of the fence. And because of that, I think
Well,
that...
she's also kind of backed off Brittany because of Willie.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it also created, I think, an easy job for Frank. Frank could stay safe. Frank could nominate two people through, quote, association and not have anybody on the teams angry with him.
Yeah.
He can say, well, I'm just nominating Shane and JoJo just because they were associated with Willie, and next week no one will be angry with him. And I bet you whoever goes home, if JoJo goes home and Shane's still there or vice versa, that person will go to Frank and be like, no hard feeling. It's okay.
Yeah.
Because they will
Shane's
understand.
already kind of done that.
Yeah. So Shane is out.
Shane was actually talking to Frank today about, having to take himself off the block and
Final two deal.
forcing him to renominate somebody else.
Yeah, so he took himself off the block, obviously. He won. He took himself off. Danielle is a replacement nominee. So now it's JoJo and Danielle. I don't know who's going to go home. Right? As of yesterday, JoJo, as of actually this morning when they were talking about, JoJo was safe. And it was Danielle that was going to go home. And then it shifted, and now Frank was saying how he wants JoJo out. So this is going back and forth. Brittany even went up to JoJo and said, hey, listen, you're done. You're out. You're finished.
Just because JoJo through associate, JoJo hasn't done anything either this entire season. Like, she has a ton of personality, but she's not showing any of it. She's not showing that she's got very much of a social game. She's a bartender. She's got the New York thing. She has one scene where she's talking to, I think, Ashley, and she's saying, or maybe it's Danielle, and she's teaching her how to say like coffee and walk or something like that. But that's the only little
that was Danielle
snippet.
and her.
Yeah, but that's the only little like snippet that we've seen of her have any sort of social game. She's not funny. She's not interesting. She's not telling stories. She can't play any of the games. There's nothing really special about JoJo.
I
like her more than I like Danielle, though. Danielle is just kind of a waste to me as well.
Yeah.
And she's kind of psychotic in the fact that she keeps retelling all these stories about how she had issues with her dad. She had some weird story about losing her virginity. She's got issues with boyfriends and men cheating on her. And it's just like, good gracious, woman, what the crap is wrong with you?
Yeah. I'm not a fan of Danielle.
I'm not either. There's something about her I don't like.
Well, there's a lot about her. And I think that the first thing was that she went ahead and said that
she was a kindergarten teacher.
teacher.
But she's really a nurse.
She's a nurse because she wanted everyone to think that she was dumb.
She
She told people
Ian,
that she was
I
a
think,
kindergarten
kind of knows that she's not really a kindergarten teacher because she was talking about something medically, I think, today or yesterday, and Ian was like, well, how do you know that?
Right.
So I think Ian has some suspicions about what she really is for her career.
Well, if that comes out, then that would nominate Danielle again.
So let me ask you,
Because if it comes out that she's lying about something, and not even a very good lie, and not for a very good reason, then I could see that causing Danielle to go home.
And of course, all of this is she's saying she's a kindergarten teacher because she doesn't want to tell people she's a nurse and think that she's really smart. But we haven't seen that she's smart from what we've
At
seen
all.
on TV.
Right.
So
Right.
So
it doesn't make any difference.
Do you feel that JoJo's out, John?
You know, I really don't know, and I really don't. I hope she's not, because I like JoJo a lot more than I like Danielle. JoJo's a lot more interesting, and there's a lot more potential, I think, for some nudity from JoJo than Danielle. So,
well, that's one way to put it.
Well, apparently there was a big issue where Ashley got out of the shower today, and she just walked out of the shower naked.
No, was this
yesterday?
Today or last night?
And last night, I guess. And there were no cameras on them. There was no camera, and
she walked out of the HOH shower, and she had no idea where she was.
She was really
completely
confused.
naked. Yeah, for some reason, none of the feeds caught her.
Jeez.
Even Mike was saying, all right, she came out of the shower naked, and this wasn't on the feeds whatsoever.
Mike Boogie said this.
Yeah.
How did he know it wasn't on the feed?
I don't know.
That's interesting. That's an interesting thought,
very interesting.
Huh.
Okay.
I find that very. I find this entire twist really interesting. Now, I'm hoping it's Danielle that goes home, because I think JoJo could lose her shit potentially in a couple of weeks if she goes up on the block.
She's somebody that's more prone to confrontation than Danielle.
Yeah, and
Danielle
mental
will go
instability
crazy and everything, but JoJo will actually get in your face and talk crap about you and call you on your BS.
Yeah, but I think that JoJo will end up leaving, and I'll tell you why. Only because if Danielle leaves, then that means that Dan needs to go. Unless Big Brother switches it up and says that, Dan's going to end up playing the game. But I think it's too early in the season for them to...
Second week to eliminate a coach.
Way too early in the season for Big Brother to turn around and say coaches are in. So I think that it has to be JoJo. That way it keeps all of the coaches in the game. I think we're not going to see the coaches play for 4 weeks. I think they need to extend it out a little bit longer.
What was the 4-week thing last year? Do you remember that? There was like a 4-week thing.
I don't know.
Well, they were paired as couples and as duos. So you were nominated and evicted.
As a couple for 4
basically.
weeks. It was 4 or 6 weeks. I forgot what it was.
I think it was
so for the first few weeks, one person would go home, and then whoever was not evicted that week was safe until they could be nominated safely where there was enough people to do everything that they needed to do, all the votes and everything.
Right.
Someone said her meds are running low. Whose meds? Because I'm curious. JoJo's? Possibly.
But I think that unless something else happens in the nominations or something, and they come up with some other twist, it's going to be JoJo for that fact alone. They cannot get rid of Dan so quickly.
All of this could have been avoided. You know how? Brittany is making so many. Ashley. Yeah, Ashley's kooky, man. She's nuts.
Yeah.
Like, she's borderline. Should be institutionalized. I mean, she's not. That's why I like her, actually, because I think she's so out of it. I mean, she really seems like she's on some sort of muscle relaxant. To some she's taking Quaaludes or Valium. I don't know. Well, I don't know if she could still get Quaalude, but she's a lunatic, and I like her for that. But here's how all of this could have been avoided. If Brittany had done the smart move, and this is what I would have done. My team wins the first HOH. I have 2 really strong competitors. I have Willie, and I have Shane, and I have JoJo. Who should get this HOH? Not the 2 strong competitors. Automatically, we've won this week. We have the house. I would give JoJo the competition. I would give JoJo the HOH because I know she really doesn't. She's not a strong competitor, so she's a waste to play in the game next week. And I could potentially win the following week again in the house because I have 2 of my strong competitors competing for HOH.
Right. She made so many pivotal errors.
I mean, that's so logical. I mean, that's such a logical thing to do. You handed this slip. You're saying, okay, pick somebody. You pick the weakest one to get the HOH physically. I'm not talking about mentally. I think JoJo at that point could have been controlled by Brittany, which I she is to some extent. You give it to her, let her get the HOH, let the two guys compete next week so I could potentially get it again.
Right.
Rather than taking one guy out of the equation out. You take this week, you give it a useless week. Just send somebody home. Don't make power moves. The first week should be game. Work your social game, create your alliances, know what everybody's about. Don't try to eliminate the strongest player out. And it was just such a useless move by Brittany. Gave it to this unstable guy because, first of all, she didn't know who this guy is. I mean, she didn't know who JoJo was, but obviously JoJo wants... I would feel that I could read JoJo a little better, and I would be able to say, okay, you know what? I know she's not going to get out of line. She probably, she's weak in competition, so this is her first HOH. She'll probably do what we want.
Right.
Willie, on the other hand, thinks that he runs his house, and he's out of his mind, and he lost it.
Well, that was a big issue with Willie, was just that he thought he was king of the castle.
You know what's fascinating? But this happens a lot in this house. It's almost like this, you're sequestered away, you're put away from reality. You have no connections to the outside world. It's like prison. I mean, in reality, it is prison. You get yard time. They tell you when to go out to the yard. They bring you certain foods. They tell you what to eat, really. I wonder if it's that mentality where you break after a couple days. And when you're given this HOH, you're given the penthouse, and you're given some sort of luxury, and they take it away from you, you kind of lose it.
But then we would have seen this happen.
It happens
to
a lot.
Everybody.
Oh, Rachel, Shima. I mean, the list goes on and on. Even Jeff. Jeff lost his crap too last year. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but those were way further into the season. We're talking about week 1. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous that after with 13 days in the house, he's already out of control.
He lost it.
Yeah, he lost it, but he didn't. I don't know.
But, so far so good. I really, so we got to wrap up, but this season's turning out to be pretty decent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is a much better season than what we saw last year.
At this time.
And even I would say the 12th season, I would say this year is better.
I mean, I like Big Brother 11. That was my favorite season, personally. But 12 was not that great because it was the same people that ran the game, and nobody made any moves. In 12, you got to remember, there was no instability.
Right. Well, we are seeing very large moves very quickly. We're seeing breakdowns very quickly. We're seeing everything that we would expect in week 4 and 6, we're seeing in week 1. So we're going to have to see if it continues, if it stays that way. But are we going to pick our final 4s again?
I'm just going to, what was my final? I don't even, we have to write this down.
We got to write it down. John, write this down. You ready?
I can write it down for you.
So here's a list of players currently. We've grayed out the people out. Last week, I believe I had said, where is it?
I can look it up last week too.
Yeah,
as well.
last week I believe I had said Frank, JoJo, Will, and Ian. This is, of course, going based on the fact that the coaches are not playing in the game. That was my final 4. I made it out with Frank, so I mean, I didn't think I really would make it out. I threw him in there just to throw him in there. But so far, I mean, JoJo's the only other option, but I think she could possibly stick it out this week and make it again. Be safe another week. Jess, how about you?
I'm going to go with Frank, Will, Shane, and Ian.
Shane and Ian.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked who? Who did I pick? I picked Will. Oh, Joe and Ian. I picked Joe.
Yeah.
John, how about you?
I think JoJo's gone.
Oh, you think she's gone?
I think she's gone. Only because of the Dan thing. I think that they need to keep Dan in for another week. I think that,
and of course, all of this is also dependent on whether or not the coaches entered the game. If the coaches entered the game, then everything changes.
Yeah.
If the coaches enter the game, Janelle is going to be in the final 2. That's my thought.
Yeah.
I think Janelle has been skipped over too many times for this win, and I think that she's gonna pull it out.
John, how about you? What was yours?
I am going with the same picks that I did the first week, which was, I think, Frank, JoJo, Shane, and Will.
Very good pick. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I want to remind everybody you can catch the show in replay, of course, and of course on our website, gfknetwork.com. You can subscribe to the podcast. We're on iTunes, we're on Zoom, we're pretty much everywhere you can get a podcast. Comment, leave us comments, subscribe, tweet us. I'm Andrew Zarian on Twitter. Jessica's Jessica Zarian. And, of course, John is Sunkast on Twitter. Am I missing anything, John? Subscribe, watch, download, dance. I don't know.
Dance.
And let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Very interesting season.
Leave us comments.
Yeah.
Email us.
And that is all for today. We'll see you all next week on Big Brother Rewind. Good night, everybody.
Good night.